Hey everybody, and welcome to the reroll, the weekly reroll, where we're never on time and we're never prepared. But hey, that's okay because we do this anyway. Let's start. This week we had a couple of shows that couldn't happen. Roleplay Eban was canceled. Dicing with Death was put off until today. So we're gonna do that today. Dark Heresy didn't happen, but that's kind of the standard. But let's start with Roleplay Solemn. Roleplay Solemn this week was a fairly important show. Some big things happened, but there was a lot of filler in between. Just a lot of filler in between that. So, I mean, we only went 3 hours. So we have some big events with a lot of random stuff that we're not going to talk about. But we're going to focus on these big events. So starting with the party arriving in a town called Maxton. Maxton's another one of these like tiny-ass towns. They've got basically mud huts everywhere because there's not enough lumber about because you're in these open plains. So a lot of mud huts. The church has got like a nice wooden spire, which is the cool thing. But whatever. So the party, there's not even in this town. It's such a small town. There's no. Yeah. Anyway, so the party arrives in this town called Maxton, and walking around, they learn that they can stay for the night at the church if they need to. But whatever. When they get to the church to rest there, they talk to this guy named Father Reverend. I know, strange name, but that's his name. Maybe there's some backstory reasons for his name, but no one ever looked into it. They just laughed at me for naming him that. But hey, look at the backstory, guys. There's reasons for everything. Anyway, they're talking to Father Reverend, and before the party realizes it, Carla's talking to the Reverend about her kid. I mean, because the party's off doing some other shit, they leave Carla in the church. They just kind of like abandon her everywhere they go. So they can't be too surprised when all of a sudden she's talking and doing shit without their permission because she's her own individual person and they're in a town, and Carla's like talking to this priest, and all of a sudden Alice notices that, what the hell? She's talking to him about the kid, and the kid's out bouncing on her knee. What the fuck? Alice goes and gets Victorian. Victorian and Alice go and confront Reverend, and Reverend's like, oh yeah, we have kids in the city too. I noticed that Alice was had a kid, like she was trying to like pretend to be like a heavy person bent over with like the kid in front of her, but the priest noticed, because it's a crappy disguise job, right? And was sitting down and actually having a conversation with her instead of just being locked away. So he notices what's going on. He's like, oh, you have a child? We have kids in this town too, blah, blah, blah. Carla kicks out the kid. She's so relieved to have someone to talk to about it, blah, blah, blah. And eventually the party also reveals to Father Reverend that they are magic users on top of that. The party gets into a bit of a fight about this. Can we trust the town? Can we not trust the town? What's going on? They decide eventually that if the town is going to let them know that they have children, they can let the town know that they have kids in magic too, because, well, they're both fucked. And clearly the town is at the far end of the Horse Lord's reach, beyond the hills and whatnot, so they eventually decide not to worry about it, although there is a dark moment where there's some looks going around in the party like, should we kill this Father Reverend guy? I don't know, maybe, but they opt not to. Some other crap happens in the town. What's his name? Jockry, after, his magic is revealed, goes and heals little Jimmy of his rickets. Earlier she had tried to heal him, but the family was like, what the fuck are you doing? No, I'm not going to leave you in a room alone with our child. And she's like, okay, well, if you're not going to leave me in a room alone with your child so I can heal his rickets, at least turn around so you don't look at me while I'm healing his rickets. And his family got super freaked out because this person's like, I'll heal your kid, but you can't watch while I touch him. Like, they were pretty freaked out. So eventually, after coming clean that she's a healer, then like, oh, it makes sense now. Go ahead, you can heal his rickets, whatever. As the party's talking about leaving and where they're going, Father Reverend brings out Mark Hunter, who is, as his name would describe, a hunter of the area, and he is there to kind of tell the party what they would be up against if they're traveling about. He also tells them that it might be best for them to head north or northeast to the Corsairs, so they might be able to hop on a ship and sail where they're going rather than take overland. The overland route would take longer, but it might be less dangerous, might be more dangerous, hard to tell. The sea route is going to be especially interesting, possibly especially dangerous. So he's like, well, you could go with the Corsairs, but either way, to go north to the seas or to continue going east, you're going to be fighting there's some nasty creatures that are roaming out. There's basilisks, there's ant eggs, there's a bunch of other monsters, and the party hears how that once upon a time, these lands were fairly, you know, calm and clean, and there weren't monsters running around everywhere. It's just after Verossi took over, now the like kingdoms aren't patrolling their areas, and they're not going around like slaying beasts that arrive out of nowhere. So the wild animals and monster population has skyrocketed now that no one is keeping them in check. That's why there's basilisks and eggs roaming everywhere. Yeah. So eventually, after hearing all this, the party's like, okay, cool. All right, and takes off. And Mark gives them a couple words of advice before they leave, just like, hey, if you see a basilisk, you should probably run. If you can't run, don't meet its gaze. It will turn you to stone. They're also poisonous, and ink eggs are dangerous too. And Sparta's like, all right, fine, peace out. They take off. They head north, and they go to Neusis, and then go to Belwick, and those places are just boring and totally not worth even talking about. Actually, that's exactly what I told them as we were playing. These places are boring. Do you want to do anything there? No? Okay, we just sleep and move on. We just sleep and move on, whatever. Between Belwick and Faro, though, they do run into a basilisk. And at first, they kind of like hold back, and they watch it. And they watch it, and the basilisk all of a sudden notices them, and like, shit, alright, fuck it, let's just kill it. So they dismount, they use invisibility to animals, which is not supposed to work on the basilisk, but I wasn't thinking, and I spaced out, and I accidentally let it work on the basilisk, even though it wasn't supposed to. Failure as a DM. But they were invisible to their horses, which I did note. So they use their horses as bait, like have the horses run away. The basilisk like runs after the horses. One of the Largo's pony turns and looks at the basilisk. Boom, instant stone. The other horse is like, oh fuck, and start running. They speak with animals to communicate, tell the horses to move away for a little bit. And so the party's like kind of near where the basilisk is running by when they're not supposed to be invisible, but they are actually invisible. But whatever. And They fight the basilisk. Battle ensues. They get some extraordinarily lucky saving throws. If Jockry hadn't cast Bless on the very first round, Victorian would have died to the toxic breath of the basilisk in the second round, and someone else would have died. Alice would have died to the toxic breath in the third round or fourth round or whatever. As it is, they fight this basilisk. They keep their eyes closed so they can't see it, which makes it kind of difficult. They get these penalties to hit. It's a complicated battle, and it ends. Well, it doesn't end with, but at one point, Alice gets like majorly criticaled by this creature, and it rolls on its like critical hit, or she fails her save or death. It rolls 2d6 for severity since it's a large creature and it's got these big ass feet, and it brings her down to 0 HP with severe bleeding, which is 10 to 60% of your HP in a round. Oh my god. Jockry tries to save Alice, but it's too late. Alice is dead. Alice is dead. But Jockry gets off a Dust Devil spell, which blinds the basilisk, even though it doesn't end up doing any more damage to it. And the party realizes like that Victorian hears the whirlwind like around the basilisk and is like, holy shit. The basilisk is probably blind. Opens his eyes, see the basilisk is blinded, yells at everyone else to open their eyes. So now the basilisk is blinded, which means it's fighting at a penalty of 4 to hit, and a penalty of 4 to its AC, while the party doesn't have any penalty to hit whatsoever. So the basilisk is now fucked. It's basically between the party closing their eyes and then the basilisk being blinded and the party opening their eyes. It's a difference of +8 to hit, which is phenomenal. +8 to hit is huge. So eventually, once the basilisk is blinded, they beat it to death, and it dies. But Alice is dead. And it's a sad moment. And then they go on to the next town, Faro, where they run into, they're at this tavern, and they're kind of dark and depressed and sad, and oh my god, Alice is dead. And, Largo tries to comfort, what's her name? Carla, that's her name. Jockry's trying to comfort, Carla, and Carla actually doesn't need that much comforting. She's got her shit together. Carla's a tougher woman than they give her credit for because they don't interact with her very much. But whatever, they comfort each other. And then while they're at this tavern hanging out, all depressed, this little guy, the shortest gnome you've ever seen, his name is Smee, runs out and goes, Largo, my old friend. He's kind of being chased out by these people because he got into a little bit of trouble back there. And Largo's like, who, Smee, what the hell are you doing here? And we're introduced to JP's new character, who is a thief. And that's kind of how Roleplay Solemn ends. We end being introduced to Smee. Alice is dead. The party is in Faro, and they're headed northward generally to the fjords to hop on a ship. They had been advised to head to Kursig and stay south of the mountains, but I think they're headed elsewhere, which they can do whatever they want to do. So that's it for Solemn. Solemn is actually happening today at 5 o'clock Pacific time, which is in 5.5 hours. 4.5 hours. 4.5 hours. Wow. No, is it happening at 6? Look, it's happening today, later today. Just show up today. Maybe it's happening at 6 o'clock today. It's happening in 5.5 hours today, so show up for that if you want. Anyway, on to Roleplay Eban. Roleplay Eban was canceled this week because the snow in Ryan's neighborhood caused a power outage, and he couldn't connect to the internet or use a computer or do anything other than cuddle by a fire with his girlfriend. The last bit is color commentary. I have no idea if that's what he did, but I assume it's what he did. It's what I would do if I was snowbound and had no electricity. Moving on to D&D misclicks, or misclicks D&D. This is a big week. There's a lot to discuss, so let's just hop right in. So remember last week how we left off with the party coming face to face with this strange black and red snake sort of thing with a human head? Well, it's called a naga. And by looking at it, instantly everyone in the party who meets its gaze, which is everyone in the party during the first round, is charmed, or under the... They have to make a saving throw versus spell to not be charmed. 3/4 of the party get charmed by the naga. And Lily does this weird bit of metagaming that I kind of question, but eventually let slide, where she casts Wall of Fog to obscure vision between everyone and the naga. It's a little sketchy, but whatever. Shit happens. Sometimes you let players slide with things that they probably shouldn't be able to do. Well, who cares? It's fine. So then the naga and them all kind of talk. They're all blanketed in this fog. No one can see anything. And they talk with the naga, and they're like, "Oh yeah, hey buddy, how are you doing? Well, we're just here looking for this giant gem." And the naga's like, "Ooh, what gem? Tell me about this gem. Go find the gem and bring it back to me. I'd love to see it." Lily's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? It's a monster." And everyone else is like, "Dude, it's cool. It's their buddy. You know, whatever." And so the party leaves, but they're pretty badly wounded from the incident with the brown mold, so they go and sleep it off for a couple of days. During this time, Lily uses her newfound Dispel magic spell to get rid of the charm off the rest of the party. And the party's like, "Oh, fat fucking naga, he totally charmed us. What a bitch. All right, let's not go show him the gem." And instead, they spend some time investigating Stone Gulch, which is the mining town that they're in, to figure out what else is going around here. What mine shaft entrance is the one that leads to this gem that we're looking for? We don't really know. Okay, so they're trying to investigate it. December stumbles across this guy who really doesn't like her asking questions and gets kind of defensive, so she stalks him to his house one night while everyone else is sleeping. Tyrant's out in the fields, passed out. The other 2 party members are in their in-rooms, passed out. And everyone gets woken up and alerted when there's this red glow in the sky and there's bells ringing and everyone's freaking out in town because part of the town's on fire. The party runs over there, sees that, holy crap, these buildings are on fire, and there's a couple of guys walking around with pickaxes being like, no. These buildings are supposed to be on fire. They're infested with this mold. We're trying to burn out the mold. It's totally cool. Don't worry about it. And then they like, oh, okay, cool. And they see down the block a couple other people are like throwing water on the buildings, trying to get them, trying to put out the fire. When some of these guys are like, no, don't put out the fire, come up with pickaxes and kill them, like literally kill them for trying to put out the fire. So the party's like, holy shit, this is fucked up. Maybe I don't know what's going on here, but there's something serious going on. So the party eventually all reconvenes. They interfere a little bit. They try and they think that these guys are under the charm of the naga. They think so. But they don't really know. Anyway, they advise some of the local town folk, hey, don't try and put out the fire. These dudes will kill you if you try to. Just, let it be. And then they use the fire as a great cover to go hang out, to go to the remaining mine shafts and explore and see what's going on. So there's a couple of mine shafts, and they correctly guess which one the gem is in. As they walk down into the mine shaft, they meet this guy. His name is Ivan, and he's like, all right, you guys have to turn back. You can't come down here right now. And the party's like, why? Why can't we go down here? He's like, fuck you. This is my area. So they draw weapons and like, all right, get out of here. Run. And as he's starting to leave, Faye says, no, hold on. All right, here's the new deal. You show us where this gem is, and we'll let you live, and you can join our crew. Or we kill you. And he's like, well, fuck it. you guys are going to kill me, so I'll join your party, but I want a full cut of the gem, as much as any of you guys would get. And the party's like, what? No, 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 we'll give you what the crew gets. And he's like, fuck you, I'll just die then. And you're never going to find that gem because it would take you hours, maybe weeks of searching down here to even get it. And on top of that, it's trapped and there's guards and you don't know how to find it. And they're like, okay, all right, fine, you can come with us. We'll give you a full cut. No worries. But then there's a look exchange between some party members like, we'll kill him afterwards, right? Yeah, we're going to kill him later. Anyway, so this guy, Ivan, leads them down into the mines. And he takes them to where the gem is. And it's like you're traveling in a mine shaft, basically. And they picked through this wall into this big room. It's 30 feet in diameter. It's made of like the stone that's brought from, it's clearly not from the mines, which is placed on the ground, kind of like a stone wall on the ground, basically. What I'm trying to say is, like, you have a mine shaft, which is a stone ground, but this is like stone bricks in the ground that are like mortared and mortared together and everything. So it's, you know, clearly very intentional. It's got a nice domed ceiling with all this like very nice stone of a very different color. There's no other entrances or exits to this area. No one really understands how this place could be because, you know, there's no doors anywhere. So how the hell do you have a room with no doors under a mountain? Doesn't make any sense. Anyway, the only other thing in this room is this pedestal on which there's like a little claw type thing holding this giant gem. And of course, there's some guards and a foreman. And the foreman's like, Ivan, who the fuck are these bastards? Get him out of here. And Ivan's like, fuck you, dude. We're here to kill you and take the gem. So the mercenaries who are hired to defend this area fight with the party. There's also a couple of random miners down there, but Lily put them to sleep with their sleep spell. Party kills the mercenaries, no problem. And then there's the problem with this gem. How do you get this gem? Well, this is how they get the gem. They're so clever. Those clever bastards. They use rope trick to create an extra-dimensional space above the pedestal. Oh, the reason you can't just pick up the gem is because there's this like invisible wall or force field or whatever you want to call it around the pedestal. The pedestal is not that big. I mean, it's fairly big, but around the section of the gem. So it's only about yay big around. That's reaches up to the ceiling. Lily uses Unseen Servant to try and like move the gem without being able to touch it, which totally works. She casts it inside this area, picks up the gem, moves it around, but finds that no matter where you move it, it's still blocked by this invisible wall. So she's like, all right, cool. She puts a rope right next to this invisible wall, uses rope trick. Rope goes up to the ceiling, creates extra-dimensional portal up there. Then she climbs up into the portal, uses the still cast Unseen Servant to lift the gem up. It comes all the way up to the extra-dimensional space, because if you think about it, you have this invisible force field that's like this, and a big space of extra-dimensional space which is centered next to the force field, right? So next to the force field, now you have a 3x5 space which covers the top of the force field. But in Rope Trick, it specifically says spells cannot extend beyond this plane in between the extra-dimensional space and the real world. So Lily climbs on up, and the spell, which is this force field, can't extend into the extra-dimensional space, because that's what the spell says, and then Lily uses Unseen Servant to raise the gem up. Now, Unseen Servant can't cross the extra-dimensional space, but it can bring the gem all the way to the top, and then Lily just picks the gem up and takes it down. Now, meanwhile, it was very, very clever by Lily. She totally broke the puzzle. That's not how you're supposed to solve it. I'm not going to reveal how it was supposed to be solved, or any of the ways I thought of to solve it. But screw you, Lily, because you fixed my thing. You solved my problem way too early. Anyway, the gem's off the pedestal, and as it's off the pedestal starts to turn slowly. It rotates, and the whole time they're solving this puzzle, the pedestal is like slowly rising and rising as it turns. Right? Anyway, they get off the pedestal. They get the gem, they're coming down. December's looking at this thing. She's been trying to detect traps on it for a while, but it keeps rising. There's always more of it to discover. And she's looking at this one side, and there's like a door in the pedestal. Now, the pedestal is pretty big. I guess you can't see it on screen, but it's like 3 feet wide or whatever. And there's like this, not a door, but like a hollow space, or just like a chamber inside of it. The party's like, what the hell? What the hell is this? So December's looking at it, and then all of a sudden this giant maroon-colored claw goes right in front of her, and she's like, "Ah, run! Everyone run!" So the whole party, including Ivan, leaves. Ivan shows them the way out because he knows these mines extraordinarily well, because he's a miner and this is his job and all that jazz. And they flee the mines. They leave the mines, get outside, they start walking back towards the town, which is now entirely on fire. The whole town is on fire. And then they see, silhouetted by the fire, a bunch of people with pickaxes and a naga, and they're like, "Uh-oh, this is about wall of fog." Lily wall of fogs it, and the party runs the opposite direction, which right now is the mountain, but they kind of go around the mountain because they're near the edge of the mountain, and they go south. They wander and wander through the plains for a while, eventually coming a road. They go the wrong way in the road. The party's totally lost. And so they come across this traveling pilgrim who's like, "Oh, hidey-ho, neighbors. You don't want to go that way. You want to go this way." And then they walk with the pilgrim for a while. He slows them down a bit. And the party had kind of been a little bit on the hungry side, but Lily was using sleep to sleep various animals in the field. Like, they came across a rabbit. She'd cast sleep on the rabbit, and then they'd like walk up and kill the rabbit and eat the rabbit. So she used sleep to get them food. Again, Lily breaking the game, ruining my encounters, ruining my challenges. Magic users are super strong if you know how to use them correctly. And Jen is doing an extraordinary job of playing a magic user because they're not just about killing guys in combat. They are about solving problems through ingenuity. Anyway, so Lily solves a lot of the party's problems that way. They head back to the town that they're headed for, whose name I am blanking on. It's Sithram. They get back to Sithram, where their other party member, the other sailors that they'd brought with them, but who had been wounded, are. And December goes and talks to the healer. And is like, "Oh, healer, how's our friends?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, they didn't make it. In fact, we had a funeral for them, and I hate to say this, but you now owe me for funeral costs." And December's like, "Fuck you. You didn't heal them. They died under your care. I am not paying for their funeral costs." And the guy's like, "Dude, you owe me money for their funeral. Like, you can't just walk away from this. It's your responsibility. You know that, right?" And December just turns and walks away, and he starts chasing after her, being like, "Dude, what the hell? You owe me money. You can't just, I'm out money for this. You can't leave me like this. This is wrong. This is against the law." And he starts yelling for like, "Guards, thief, guards, thief." And so December whirls around, pulls out her crossbow, points it at him, and is like, "Really? Are you going to die over this?" He throws up his hands like, "Oh, help! I'm being mugged! Help!" December shoots him and kills him, but not before some guards show up. December runs from the guards. The guards give chase. The party, December actually eventually catches up with the party, sees them, and then kind of like doesn't want to like bring the guards to the party, but the party casts wall of fog in between the guards and them because this is like 6 days after she used it before all of her spells back. The guards freak out on the other side. December runs through it. Guards hold back. Eventually go through. December runs down another street, then another street. Lily casts more grease, and then the party runs, and now the guards are all tripped up with the fog and the grease, and they're confused, and they fall everywhere, and the party eventually escapes. By the way, Ivan has 6 hotness. Oh god, what did I just do? Anyway, so the party heads back to, what's this place called? To Northall, where their ship is. They get back, they're tired. Eventually, they go to the dock where their ship is, and the ship's not there. And they're like, "All right, you know what? We had told them if they can't be here, they'll leave a note. No problem." They go to the harbor master, and they're like, "Hey, dude, where's our ship? Are there any notes from the Bananars?" And he's like, "Bananar. Oh, here's a note from the Bananars." Hands it to them, and it says, "Hi." I don't remember the exact text, but it's something like, "Hi, I'm Jefferson," or "Hi, I've taken your ship. Your crew is mutinied. They're coming with me." Signed, Jefferson. So Jefferson stole their ship. The party's freaked out. They're like, "What the fuck? Why did Jefferson steal our ship? How did he steal our ship? How did he get the whole crew to mutiny against us? Didn't we have an orc on board that would defend against this sort of shit? Where the fuck is that guy?" And the harbor master hears them arguing about this. "Oh, the orc guy that left him. Yeah, there was a big argument. He's been hanging out at that tavern ever since. By the way, what happened with your ship? I'm curious as to why it left and everything. It's my job to know these things." And like, "All right, well, we're going to go figure out what happened because our ship is missing. Someone stole it. We'll come back and tell you." They go talk to the orc, and the orc is like, "Dude, they all surrounded me. The entire crew mutinied. What was I supposed to do? Kill them all and then just have the guards come and take me away to jail and take your ship away and impound it for being a pirate ship?" Like, it was pretty obvious it was a pirate ship after I killed everyone and they searched it, What was I supposed to do? I did the only thing that I could do, which is let them have it, because otherwise you would still have no ship and I would be in jail. That fucking sucks." The party's pissed at him because, well, he didn't protect their ship. They argue for a while. He eventually says, "Fine, I'll give you your money back. Take this money," then he leaves. So now the party, they've got this crystal, they've got Tyrant, and they've got Ivan, who has 6 hotness, and now they are shipless, and they're vowing to get revenge on Jefferson. And I think we left with them looking into ships they could buy, and So that's where we left off. That is it for misclicks this week, and I hope you check out misclicks on Tuesday, tomorrow. Anyway, let's do Dicing with Death. Sadly, life gets complicated. I had to move Dicing with Death from yesterday to today. So in fact, as soon as we're done with this show, we're going to hop into Dicing with Death. So stick around for Dicing with Death, guys. If you're on YouTube, the VOD should be up by the time you've seen this. If not, then it's happening right now, so you should go watch it or something. Whatever. Next, we have Roleplay R&D. All right, so again, I don't watch this, but we've got some notes for it, so let's see. So half the party's still down this trap because the room had slanted and everything, and so the party starts separated. Lobelia eventually, after using her grappling hook and trying to get them out, pulls a rope out of her adventuring pack, and the whole party climbs out after Lobelia disables some of the traps down there. Excuse me. Continuing on through the area, they come across a door that they can't really open, but they find the secret panel nearby that has these 3 ropes. Eventually, the party figures out they have to line up some gems on the ropes, and then the door opens. The door opens, and they find some loot and these 3 crystalline warriors, and they fight the warriors, but defeat them pretty easily with some crotch shots, apparently. One of them finds some notes on the page of a cookbook about the last priest of Carthus that still roams these halls. Ooh. Anyway, they keep going. They fight another crystalline warrior, walk down a hallway, come to a room with 2 more crystalline warriors, which they defeat pretty easily. In the room with these 2 crystalline warriors, they find out that the contraption in the room, there is a contraption in this room, and the contraption in this room has a tube that holds this black viscous liquid that falls onto a plinth, which is also known as a bowl. Eventually they figure out that this liquid is the scientist Fen. It's his memories. And then if they stick something inside the liquid, they can find out whatever they stick inside the liquid, they can find out what it is and what it does. So Lobelia sticks in this wand that she's got, but she fails this roll. I don't know what roll it is. Sorry, I didn't watch the show. And loses 3 points of intel, but still learns that it's a wand of disintegration. Now, Lobelia, 3 intel less, tries to use her wand of disintegration to open this magically held door, but fails her roll again and fails to destroy the door. Instead, opens this crack in the middle of the room. Then all of a sudden, this chill comes back into the room, similar to the chill of the first dungeon that they were in, the dungeon/spire that they were in. Anyway, they end up opening up a different door and go through it. They meet this human-sized flying squirrel, try to befriend it by smoking some pipe weed with it. And they make friends, but the squirrel's like, dude, I don't want to join your party. Whatever. Turns out the squirrel guy is being chased by his former friends and party because he didn't join Carthus with them. And at some point, time slows down to a stop, and this viewing portal appears, and a voice asks to the squirrel guy, are you the one who betrayed us? And then a flying squirrel-like man, except this guy's got black fur, comes to the viewing portal and points out the squirrel's like, yes, that's the betrayer. And the portal closes, and their squirrel friend that they befriended and smoked pipe weed with, crawls away through a crack in the ceiling. They leave the area, and you go back to the area with the plinth, which is the bowl with the viscous liquid and all that stuff. The party gets one of their hirelings to open up another door, but it sets off a trap. The hireling falls down a pit, gets killed by a ton of rats that are down there. So they throw some boards over the pit trap, basically disarming it, go through the door, down a hallway, down the ways, and they come to this crevice in the ground. I think it was in the ground. Maybe it was in a wall. Anyway, they find this crevice, and Rock tries to go into the crevice, but he fails the roll and can't make it in. As he's trying to crawl out of the crevice, a frozen revenant, it's a frost revenant or a frozen revenant, I don't remember, attacks him from below. I guess so, he must have been on the ground then. They fight the revenant, and eventually kill it because Rollo, who's in his sloth form, gets thrown on the revenant and just kills it. The party finds another trap in front of the door that, if activated, would blind, deafen, and harm the entire party. So Arolo's like, fuck it, I'm going to turn into a blind, deaf mole and set it off. And so he does. And almost everyone survives except for one of the hirelings. So Arolo YOLOs and kills one of the hirelings by setting off this trap. Somehow the party forgives him, I guess, and they move on, open a door, walk into this storage-like room full of magical items, and also this steam-powered iron robot golem sort of thing, which attacks the party. The party fights it, and they eventually kill it, but not before Lobelia tries to use her wand again and fails to use her wand again. And Arolo loses some of his tentacles because he was in an octopus form at the time. And eventually, like, Arolo ends up like holding, like sticking to rock, like tentacling to rock. Eventually, they defeat the steam golem and loot the place. And that was Day 9's last episode. He's leaving the show. That's it for Day 9. And on to Dark Heresy. Well, there was no show this week for Dark Heresy, so that's that. And this has been the weekly reroll. If you guys stick around, we should be doing Dicing with Death in about 8 minutes, and then we should be doing Roleplay Solemn an hour after Dicing with Death ends. And then tomorrow we got misclicks, and then on Thursday we have not R&D, eban. So we'll see you guys for Dicing with Death in a few minutes, and see you guys later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.